Deathrun map is the best? Now, this is a subjective question. Or is it? What if I told you there is a definitive best map to play on to gain XP? What if I told you there was a map that you could complete every time with no deaths? Hello everybody, my name is KurtBroG, and today I will tell you the best maps to play on Deathrun to earn XP and get wins. Before I tell you the best one though, I'm going to rank each of the 15 maps from worst to best in terms of danger and XP. If you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a like and share it with your friends. Anyway, let's get to it. So you might be wondering, how did I come to this conclusion? Well, I ranked the 15 maps on 3 different aspects. The amount of potential XP gained through checkpoints, the amount of traps that are activated by death. This means that points like the fence parkour and viaduct and the slab parkour and terminal do not count, and a mix of the two, by giving each map a score out of 30 by adding the number ranking on the danger and number lists, with 2 being the theoretical best and 30 being the theoretical worst. For example, if a map is number 13 on the danger ranking and 4 on the XP ranking, it'll have an overall score of 17 out of 30, which is not very good. I also looked for the time between checkpoints and the amount of traps per checkpoint. I call this trap density. Anyway, now you know how I did it, let's start ranking it. Zoo is a map that takes place in, obviously, a zoo. It has many twists and turns with parkour sections, traps that aren't able to be dodged, and extremely long checkpoints, and a very little amount of XP to be gained. If you're playing for XP, you should definitely not play this map. Viaduct is a map that you'll most likely die over and over to when you first start playing it. It's a map that continuously builds on itself and requires near constant attention. The map has fairly long checkpoints and the traps are somewhat difficult to dodge. It's good to get better at common Deathrun traps, but don't play it if you don't need to. Venice is actually one of my favourite maps, not because of the XP or traps, but more because putting a good run together on this map is loads of fun. Speaking of traps, there are loads of traps between each checkpoint that could set you back loads. Overall, it's a fun map to play, but not a good map to gain XP or wins on because of the high trap density. Western is a map that I don't play often, but it is pretty fun and enjoyable. The main reason it is so low on this list is because the gap between checkpoints is over 10 seconds, meaning you can lose around 7 places from 1 death in some cases. The XP is fairly low, but it's quite a nice map to play, and it does have some unique mechanics such as varying height levels on parkour. It's an okay map, but not really for stats. Personally, Seaside is one of my least favourite maps due to it being a pain to play on a professional level, but casually it isn't too bad. It has a fairly low trap density, with there only being 2.5 traps per checkpoint on average, and it is a decently safe map to play with a below average amount of XP. It is very parkour focused, so it is a good map to play to learn the parkour in Deathrun. Primus is a pretty average map that doesn't have anything that makes it stand out from the rest of the maps. I'm not saying it's a bad map or anything, it is one of my favourite maps, but it doesn't stand out for any reason except for it having a pretty decent second half. The XP is generally alright and is more dangerous than some of the other maps, but that really is it. Relic is one of those strange cases where it's a great map, but statistically is quite bad. It has the second worst XP gain, only being in front of Zoo, and the danger level is quite high, with there being 11 seconds between checkpoints. I would not recommend this map for XP, but I would suggest it for a thrill and some fun, because it's a very fun map. Subzero, formerly known as Snowfall, is a pretty unique map, with it having the only case of non-trap ice being a factor in speed. It yields average XP and is not very dangerous, with 8 seconds between checkpoints and only 23 traps, the second lowest amount for a 9 checkpoint map. I would definitely suggest playing this map for a mix of experience in the traps, and for fun, because it's also a very fun map. I was actually quite surprised at this placement, mainly because I've always thought of School as being a hellish map to get through professionally. In reality, it is a fairly nice map to play through if you don't get caught up in the traps and you time your jumps right. There are 7 checkpoints, meaning you'll get some decent XP, but because of the time it takes to complete the map, it'll be quite fast to level up, so I would suggest this for fast leveling. I think Toys is quite an underrated map. It has a healthy mix of traps that will instantly kill you, and traps that are really fun to move around. There are a couple of problems with it though, such as jump boost not working on weaker internet connections, making the player lose time. You can't expect to get much XP out of it either, but the danger of it is very low in comparison to the other maps. So if you want a low risk but low reward, this is definitely the map for you. Metropolis is one of the shortest maps and is still able to be one of the most fun maps to play. It only has 15 traps spread across its 6 checkpoints, meaning there is a fairly low chance of death if you are careful. It is an all-around good map to play for wins and experience. Terminal is my personal favourite map, and that is for good reason. It has a low amount of traps, a higher amount of checkpoints than Metropolis, and is just a generally good feeling map to play on. There are also some insane skips you can do to save loads of time with very little consequence, so it is fairly quick to complete, taking just under a minute. I would definitely encourage you to play this map if you haven't already. Cave is generally the go-to map for new players due to its simplistic layout and fairly easy trap patterns. It is the best map for XP in relation to its length, with there being a checkpoint every 6.9 seconds on average. It does have a high amount of traps, but they're all pretty easy to dodge if you're paying attention, so I definitely recommend this map for a new player. I honestly wasn't expecting Gardens to be this far up the list, but it is a brilliant map in most departments. The layout is great, there is a good amount of XP to be gained, and it has a fairly low amount of danger. The only thing I would say is the second half of the map does require more attention than the first, and if you're playing professionally, the first half requires more attention than the second. Well, Prison is a straightforward, low trap, high XP map with some fast-paced action to be had. There are some difficult points if you're trying to go fast, such as the stair sections in the second and third checkpoints, or the opening parkour section. In general, it is a brilliant map for new and skilled players alike, and is objectively the best map to play for maximum XP and minimum danger in the fastest time. Well, that's the 15 maps ranked from worst to best. What did you think? What would be your number one personally? If you did enjoy this video, and you do agree with my listing, feel free to give this a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Anyway, keep on gaming and stay safe. I will see you all soon. Bye!